In this series, lowimpact.org talks with people working to build a mutually owned, democratic, decentralised economy that builds community and doesn't destroy nature. We want to increase collaboration to bring about system change. Find links to the sites mentioned in the videos in the description below. Join the conversation by liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel.
Hi, so today I'm talking with Shaila Agha of Grassroots Economics about the Sarafu Network, a mutual credit network that's growing rapidly in East Africa. Really nice to talk with you, Shaila.
Thank you, I'm happy to be here.
I recently interviewed the founder of Grassroots Economics, Will Ruddick, so I'll link to that interview in the description. But if I say that the Sarafu Network is a mutual credit network that allows trading without conventional money, and it includes 50,000 households across Kenya and did $3 million worth of trade last year without money. How's that for a brief description?
Yeah, I mean, actually we're up to 52,000 right now. And just last month we had 4,200 new users registered and over $54,000 traded in just 1 month.
In 1 month? And
yeah, since April, so it's like a month and some days.
What kind of traders are they? Give us a sort of a snapshot of a typical participant.
So mostly if you go to our dashboard, you'd see that most of the trade happens with food, agricultural produce. So most of it is like people signing up and going to buy from their local mamamboga, who's like the vegetable grocer. And now we've started a whole project where people are just going straight to the farms and using the Sarafu to buy straight from the farms.
And what's your role there?
So I'm the incoming director. I'm mostly going to be dealing with corporate relations, funding, a business development role, I'd say.
And is it still growing? I mean, how do you think what do you think is the future holds?
Well, I mean, it is really growing, definitely. We don't just have the standard, transactions anymore. We have things like cold coconut presses, where we're pressing coconut oil, just all these different kinds of income generating activities. We are now starting, like I said, the Syntropic farming Shamba ya Jamii project with the Mustard Seed Foundation, where we basically provide them training and inputs. And then the syntropic farming is basically this method of farming where they use fruit trees, vegetables, grasses like turmeric and ginger, and a lot of mulching. So it uses a lot less water than traditional farming methods.
What was the word you used to describe the form of agriculture?
It's called syntropic farming.
Syntropic.
Yeah, syntropic farming. And I can send you a little blurb, a picture about that you can put on your site as well. It's really interesting because it's like you have this border of fruit trees that kind of acts as a barrier because monkeys are a pest in Kenya, so you need something to kind of ward them off. And then you have like the different like rows with grasses and stuff that you now use to mulch as well. And we usually train them on making a water pan as well, because we are mostly rain fed, being that Kenya is a mostly arid and semi-arid land. So we need to have that like resilience, like what do you do in times of drought? You want to have that continuity. So we kind of give them all that. And all of these services are then paid for using Sarafu. And the people accept the Sarafu knowing that they're going to in turn come and buy the produce back with that. Yeah. So it's like income generating activities like that, definitely.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question, because grassroots economics is not just about mutual credit. It's about starting new community businesses, and especially agriculture. I was reading about you're helping small farmers, and I thought it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it creates this like circular economy, everybody's kind of, I mean, there are places in Kenya that actually have, during the droughts, they have people who are having poverty-induced hunger. And it doesn't make sense because we live in such a resource-rich country with with so many unemployed youth. So it's like, why don't we just, use that instead. So I feel like we've now enabled that because there is that cash crunch. People don't really have the money to buy that. So if we in turn give them the supplementary money or supplementary currency, then they're able to just, use that for their agricultural produce instead.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is what are the limits for Sarafu, for grassroots economics? What's your ambitions? How big, how much could it actually do in Kenya and maybe in other parts of Africa?
Yeah, well, definitely in Kenya, we would love to scale nationwide. It would be the dream, really. One of the issues we do have with that is the scalability expense in terms of the telcos. And the service providers that we use for the USSD code. So right now, if somebody wanted to register, they'd have to dial *386 *4*96#, and they'd get like a message and everything. And all those messages are paid for by grassroots economics. So it's kind of doable now at the 52K, but what's going to happen when it's 1 million people doing that? It's just too expensive. Also, like government integration and acceptability. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could pay for your parking or, your government stuff with it as well? Because I mean, you're basically saying that only people with money can access these services, whereas like there's this whole unbanked population that all have phones that could be participating in the economy.
Have you had any conversations with the government, or you mean national government or local government?
With local government, they're actually quite on board. We really want to push it for counties because now with the devolution, each county kind of has their own administration. So it's a lot easier to get on board. And we are definitely targeting the more open-minded, more tech-savvy counties, to incorporate that. Because, for instance, Nairobi now has its own USSD code where you can pay the parking through that and you buy the tokens and add it to the wallet and do that. So they already kind of have a system there with it. We just have to move away from this idea of it just being for vulnerable households and it being to everyone,
Yeah. So I guess you can point to some successes when you're talking to local government. We're trying to start clubs in the UK, and we are talking to local authorities, but we don't have any clubs up and running yet to point to. But you have a massive success story to point to, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's still a little difficult when it comes to the local government. I mean, when I was speaking about local government, I'm not even talking on a county level. I meant the chiefs and the elders, because they are the lowest level of government, elected by the people. They're the ones who are actually seeing the changes firsthand. They're there on the ground seeing that, oh, this family used to come and complain that they don't have any food, or used to go to the churches looking for donations, but now they're empowered and they're doing their own thing. So they're the ones who are actually really on board with Sarafu. And we use them as well as mediators in terms of things when we're doing these MOUs for the chamas and stuff. So it's really great.
I want to come to chamas a bit later. But do you have contact with development organizations, and might they sort of instead of just pumping money into countries, do you think they might help develop mutual credit networks, because that's the kind of exchange medium that can't be sort of sucked away, and end up in tax havens?
Yeah, I mean, I'll even go back to the question you were asking about what our future was. We're actually in talks with an organization to actually go to Cameroon and do a test on research on how scalable it would be to do it nationwide. So there are governments that are really ready to take
Cameroon.
Yes.
Is that the German government who are involved with that?
Yes. And we also have AFD. Is this GIZ actually that's looking into that? And we do have the support of Orange, the telco. And you see, I mean, it's literally, that's all it is. It's just a government, a telco, and another aid organization coming together and saying, we're going to do this. And it's very easy to do that. Now, back to the question you were asking. We did have sort of accelerator workshop with WFP recently. They were really interested in our whole agriculture systems that we're setting up.
With who, sorry?
The World Food Program.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did, because they did ask us, what would you like? And one of the things we did say was, look, we do need government lobbying in a way, and you do have their ear in a way because you're like a huge donor for them, so if you could just talk to them and say, give these guys a chance, listen to them, maybe give them subsidies at least so that we can scale up, then definitely. So we really do push all the organizations we work for to at least aid us in that way.
No, I read that the German government were interested in starting some sort of a community currency scheme in Cameroon, but I didn't know that you were involved as well.
Well, yeah. Right now it's just about research that we're doing into it and looking into it. Obviously you have to do feasibility study and an assessment on the viability and the acceptability of it really as well. We need to know how the people are going to accept it, whether they will. I mean, because this is like the Sarafu paper we started with, right? And it's really pretty. But is somebody going to really give me their goods and services for this paper money? It's a really big test, and we need to just go and find out if we want to do that before we just launch it and pilot it.
So just to be clear, that you don't use the paper money anymore, it's all digital now.
No, it's all digital now, which is really great and COVID compliant. And it's also great because before we used to have this whole timestamp issue. There was a lot of fraud involved. And I mean, like just hauling the money from one place to another. It's just, it's a digital age. We needed to go digital.
Yeah. So what do you think your biggest barriers might be?
Yeah, for me, I would definitely just say the government acceptance, really. If we had the government on board, we would be light years ahead of where we are right now.
Yeah.
I think they are just a little bit wary because blockchain technology is not, it's not easy. It's not completely acceptable, although our Capital Markets Authority is now working with like 3 other blockchain companies. So I can see they're slowly trying to understand it and trying to set up these regulatory sandboxes for these companies to work through. And we are going to apply for that as well. We're really hoping to get in there and actually get their ear, because I feel as though it's just, when they hit complementary currency, because I mean, I'm sure Will spoke to this as well, they think, oh, it's like a plan to secede, or, they're trying to make some kind of new party or something like that. And it's really not the case. It's like, we're just coming and trying to buffer in where you failed already,
Yeah. Talking about seceding. He had a bit of jail time, didn't he?
He did, yeah, he did. And it wasn't just him too, it was like his whole team. Luckily I wasn't there yet. But yeah, it was quite interesting. And I mean, eventually I think eventually they tried to put him on fraud or something, and like printing of currency. But I mean, it's ridiculous. We have the same promotion and the same kind of complementary tokens with our stores. You go to a store, you get credits which you can use later on. So it's ridiculous.
I mean, it might have been a good thing in the long term. It might have been a bit of free publicity.
Absolutely. And I mean, eventually the long-term goal is to just get the government on board and use it even as a way of getting taxes, because a lot of this population is not taxed at all, so it could be a way of just like giving them an opportunity to also contribute back into the economy.
So that might appeal to the government, mightn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So tell us a bit more about you, what your background, and how did you find your way to the grassroots economics?
Okay, so I did study in my undergrad. I studied finance and economics, and then I quickly got into the corporate world, banking, investment systems for a while. And this was during the 2007-2008 financial crisis. So, and I was working in Border City in Canada, and so I was like right there in the middle of it when seeing the financial crash and the effects on people, and was working on the other side with these like people hoarding money and not caring if they lost millions, so for me it just didn't make sense. I started getting interested in decentralized finance, then got into the humanitarian sector, worked at the International Fund for Agricultural Development for a while, but that's a UN organization for agriculture. But then like just the bureaucracy was just so like demotivating. I didn't feel like I wanted to be in that space. And then I kind of went and studied fintech with focus on disruptions in financial technologies. And that's when I actually first heard of Bangla Pesa. I studied it, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. Then I also heard about them. I mean, I met them in a conference as well in Nairobi, and I was like, seems like the kinds of disruptive technologies that we should be in. But then I was still kind of corporate for a while, and then later on last year when I moved to Kilifi, I was like surprised to find out that Will's office was actually walking distance from my house, and I just took that as a sign. I'm like, I need to get involved, however.
So what I really want to talk about is chamas. I know that chamas are very important in the development of the Sarafu network. What's a chama?
Okay, so basically chamas are these groups. They started off in like the 80s when Kenya was really in a cash crunch, and they started off as just these women's saving groups. I mean, predominantly even now they are mostly women, but now they're pretty much open to men as well. And they just basically meet up, and they always already kind of have some kind of social bonds, so they're either related or they have like the church group, or they all work together. They just already know each other, and they have this trust system already, and they just meet up, and at each meeting they have this system called the merry-go-round system. So basically each meeting people would give in a certain amount, say 500, and if they're 10 members, then that 50K, that 5K will go home with one of the members. So it's like a merry-go-round at each one point. So it's like a micro lending as well, So it's really great. And I feel as though for Sarafu, that's been our best group to work with, really.
Is it, are they a new thing, or have they been in Kenya forever?
No, chamas have been around since the 80s. My mom's involved in maybe 4 chamas. I have 2 chamas as well. Everyone I know in Kenya is kind of involved in a chama. It's almost just it's a thing that people do. If you have these friends together, you have a way of getting a loan, because access to credit is 1, super expensive, 2, really difficult. Not everybody has a title deed or a logbook that you can just go and get. And recently we've had these companies come in with these really aggressive campaigns, and they're really bad because they don't inform the people about their interest rates, which are ridiculously high. But then before then, it was really, unless you had like I said, a title deed or a logbook, you wouldn't be able to get a loan. So how else are people going to do this? You couldn't just go and ask your parents or your family members. It's better to just have this independent group where you're all kind of working towards a similar thing. So it's really great. And for us at Sarafu, why we love it so much is you basically come in and you give them the training, and it's already this self-governing group. It's a network of traders, say. It's like a bunch of people who are already trading.
That's such a gift.
We're just liquidity providers, and we just come in and we say, here, trade,
Oh my God, that's exactly what we need in the UK. Well, I guess everywhere. So they're completely embedded in their community.
Yes.
So did the Sarafu network start with the chamas, or did you approach the chamas later, or were they involved right from the beginning?
Well, some of them were involved from the beginning, but it was some of them were just using the actual paper money as instead of collecting the Kenya shillings, they would also now save up with the Sarafu as well, or the Bangla Pesa, or whatever it was. But the chamas have always been there. Yeah. So they've just always been there. They're both just parallel existing, So once the Sarafu came in, yes, they were using it as well. It's not like Sarafu came in and was like, okay, Chamas, maybe you should use Sarafu. They kind of just adopted it on their own. And I mean, it's really great for them because they already have that trust system, you know. Telling someone else to accept Sarafu from someone they don't really know is one thing, but then telling them to accept it from their Chama member, they know that they're going to be able to get that back. And in any case, before Sarafu, they were already doing it with a ledger, like a written debt ledger, you know. So it's like, okay, you come and take 1 bag of flour from me, and I'll give you 2 bags of sugar or whatever it was, right? So at least now with Sarafu, they can actually take it out of the Chama and go to maybe another Chama or to another business. So it's like almost like this debt that you can kind of trade with as well, you know?
Yeah. So that's, I mean, I didn't realize that everyone was involved with the Chama. You know, virtually everyone's involved with the Chamas. I thought it was marginal. I thought it was, you know, a little thing that happened, but
no, I mean, I have a friend that works with the UN. I have a
Yeah.
friend who works with the UN, and they have a UN Chama where they invest like in land and apartments. And my mom's Chama is with our neighbors, and they buy land together because they're like, okay, we're already neighbors right now, so we might as well be neighbors in you know, another place where we're buying land together. So it's just this access to credit. And I mean, it's a means of having a negotiable interest rate, which is the biggest thing. Because I mean, the money's there and it's with you. And I mean, people don't really have that much faith in the banking system in Kenya because we've been pushed around, and one minute you wake up and the interest rates changed, you know, by like 5%, you know, and then there's all these like hidden fees, and you sign up for a loan which is supposed to be 14%, which is already ridiculous in my opinion, and then 2 years down the line you end up realizing you're paying 22% because of all these other extra charges, you know. So people have that loss already of like trust in the traditional financing system. So it's like, why don't we just keep the money on our own, you know, no banking fees, nothing, you know, just us keeping the money on our own and then being able to loan it to each other, you know. So in case 1 month goes by and you don't have your payment, you just, you know, go on to the, you know, just to talk to the Chama and, you know, negotiate and actually like make them understand why it is there, you know, they're doing that. So it's a bit like less scary than going with a traditional loan or mortgage as well.
Mm-hmm. Is there a national Chama network, or are they all independent and separate?
They're all kind of independent and separate.
Okay.
We do have another thing maybe you should look into. It's also, they're called SACCOs. SACCOs are now the more
How do you spell that?
It's SACCO.
Okay.
So SACCOs are more of the formal, I'd say, organizational, like structured, you know, kind of set rules, chamas. So they have like larger numbers. They actually, I believe they have to have a banking license as well to be a SACCO, because it's like they deal with like larger amounts of money. So let's say you'd have SACCOs for there's the teacher SACCO, there's a prison SACCO, and it's like there's a Safaricom SACCO too for all the Safaricom employees. There's a UN SACCO for all the UN employees, and there you have obviously preferential interest rates. You'd have like negotiable terms, and it's larger, so obviously there's a large pool, and the contributions then turn from, you know, like 500 to like maybe like 50K a month or something like that. So depending on the SACCO you're in, it's like a bit, and it's a little less personal, I'd say.
Right.
And now those SACCOs have a network and they are regulated by the Kenya government.
Right.
So like,
have you talked with are you working with the SACCOs? Are you talking with them as well?
Not yet, although I think that's definitely another step we should go into.
Have you come across any chamas that don't like the idea of mutual credit, or are they sort of universally, you know, do they look favorable?
No, they love it.
They love
Everybody
it.
loves that idea, especially like, I don't know what your interest rates are like in the UK, but I mean, even for us, getting a credit card is just, it's like, it's a disaster. In Kenya, like people don't buy stuff on credit. You know, it's like a very niche population that does, because there's also just that there's no employment security as well, you know, for majority of the people. There's very few people who have that employment security. So, oh yeah, I have to mention as well, I think with the SACCOs, another thing, you have to have some kind of security. Like you have to show that you have pay slips or something like that. So it's a little bit.
A lot of people wouldn't have that, would they?
Yeah, no, not really. So it's like the middle and upper class, middle class and going up would probably be more involved in SACCOs, but it's still the same.
Yeah. Do you think that the Sarafu network could have grown to the size that it is in Kenya without Chamas?
Absolutely not.
Not.
No, absolutely not.
This might be a problem for the UK because we don't have. How can we get them?
No, I mean, it's a different country, completely different issues. So I say the reason I'm saying this is because most of the people who were getting onto it individually would be like, okay, yeah, great, I have this Sarafu, but then they wouldn't maybe transact it as much as they would if they would in a chama. Like if we look at the transactions and the amounts that go in as well, they mostly go in through the chamas because there's already that like weaved network, right? But I feel like, I mean, with the UK, you guys have different networks, you know, you have like the football networks or like the pubs, you know, it could just be like something that comes out from there as well. Because you already have these like trust systems where people come in and they have a tab at the bar, right? Which they settle like later on or something. So I feel like it could just has to build up on
I think that's not as common these days.
No, that's sad.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I live in London, so it definitely doesn't happen in London.
Yeah, London's, I feel like a whole different monster. Yeah. Not really like the rest of England.
It's just an international city, and
yeah, absolutely.
But we don't have that kind of community cohesion that you have in Kenya. It's so I think that might be a barrier. I mean, I think when I spoke with Will, he said if you're talking about mutual credit networks, forget Europe and North America. It's going to spread through Africa and Asia and Latin America first.
Absolutely.
That's where the need is.
Yeah, and also that's where the word community still means something. You know, just recently, my neighbor they lost a child, and I've never seen a funeral so big in my life. Like I've seen politicians I thought it was a politician or something that had passed on, because it was like the entire community showed up for them. You know, so it's like there's still those bonds, the social trust and social cohesion. I think it's a little bit more than it is in the West. So people show up for the people a lot more.
Yeah. We spoke earlier about the credit commons. So we have the software to join up different mutual credit clubs and mutual credit groups. And I was speaking to Will about that, and it would just be such a fantastic thing to connect Europe and Africa and, well, all parts of the world, really. Maybe small coffee shops could maybe buy their coffee directly from a small farmer in Kenya and cut out all the middlemen and do it via mutual credit. So there's no role for the middlemen, there's no role for the corporate sector, there's no role for the banks. They're totally unnecessary.
Absolutely.
I certainly would.
I think that's the dream, really. I mean, if you think about it, if we did have more of that, we would have all these businesses that are really struggling, like let's say setting up a zero waste company in Kenya, you know, or like a fair trade organization in Kenya. Why is it so hard to do it? Well, because everything is kind of imported. You know, you need like these tin foil bags to pack the coffee in that you need to import, that you need to have money for, you know, you need to have like these different ties, the twisty ties and stuff like that are all imported, you know. So it's like, what if you could get all these like zero waste companies to just all sorts of band in together and become a mutual credit, you know, system? Then they could just save their money and put it more into R&D and into like, you know, paying the farmers and actually like use the fiat currency for that, and then just have a ledger system which, you know, they can deal and record and calculate their trade imbalances and sort it that way, you know. Makes sense to me.
I guess if you're helping to start small businesses as well, those are some of the kind of businesses that you could help to start, and you could actually do those things in Kenya instead of having to import everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that building sort of resilient networks via mutual credit could possibly save a lot of people in Africa from sweatshop work or plantation work, which is, you know, more or less slavery? Do you think it can help build a different kind of economy?
Yeah, I can tell you for free, Dave, people don't choose to be in those working conditions.
I'm
Nobody wakes up.
absolutely sure they don't.
Yeah. I mean, we have a very, very, very large unemployment problem in Kenya. Even with my peers, or even with me just a few years ago, like it's really difficult. Like you find yourself overqualified, you have all the resources, but then it's just there's just no jobs for you to do. And entrepreneurship is also like that much, harder because of, like I said, access to credit and being so expensive. So, I mean, it's like, I just feel like the mutual credit builds so much resilience, and it's, if you increase the liquidity into into the society, then you allow people to follow their passions. You allow them to do what they really want to do,
Yeah.
and you give them this opportunity to use their resources. And for me, that's empowerment.
Yeah.
Giving them the resources to take charge of their own lives instead of just waiting for someone else and having to work hand to mouth just to feed yourself.
I think that's exactly, it's a very similar thing happening over here now as well. Lots of small businesses have gone under after the COVID lockdowns. And, a lot of working class towns, the available work is going to be working in Amazon warehouses, which is terrible.
Yeah.
And
it's really bad. Yeah.
And so it's a very similar situation here too. So, and I think mutual credit can really help to stand against that and to try and
absolutely.
different kind of local economy.
Yeah, just strengthening the people. I mean, I remember one of the field officers I met with last week was telling me that in the area, it's very like prone to drought, and a lot of people had not been doing like that great with farming and everything. So people had have to wait for their husbands who were maybe all the way in Nairobi to send them money by M-Pesa. And sometimes we have a system now by M-Pesa called Fuliza, where you can take out overdraft on your account, but the interest rates are ridiculous. Like, they are so crippling, and is not that much financial literacy, and you're just allowing someone to take off an overdraft on their account, not really knowing the terms and conditions to that overdraft. So a lot of the people, the vulnerable households, take out those the fulizas. So you even have this person who's not even be able to participate in M-Pesa with their family. But then now you have this option of, okay, if you are in that situation and you are in that crunch, all you have to do is just sign up for this thing and you get this Sarafu. And then what we do is we have a phone support team that calls people, asks them where they are, and then tells them, oh, hey, do you know that you can go to your neighbor and actually buy milk because they're selling milk in Sarafu? Or do you know that you can go and get some agriculture from this farm? Do you know that they're actually a chama and you can join the chama, So it's like, we're building that resilience so that even after that 100 bob is gone, we don't have to continuously add in this 100 bob, because it's like you're giving them this network, and then they're able to now just help each other. And then the person, bob is like 100 bob is like 100 quid, basically.
So I thought it was Kenyan shillings, because the old English word for a shilling was a bob, so it's the same.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's really cool, because even after like the donors have left, they continuously still are helping each other. And this field officer told me that he's actually seen it with his own eyes now, that before they would only eat rice during Christmas, but now they're eating rice like throughout the year, So this is actually like quantitative, I mean, not just quantitative, but qualitative change in people's lives.
I saw that research that food consumption goes up in areas where they use mutual credit. I saw that, yeah. So I was telling you earlier, I visited Tanzania, and I visited Ujamaa villages, which are sort of, villages where people work together, and they're direct democracy villages. And it just feels to me, with the Sarafu Network and the Ujamaa idea and Chamas, there's so many fantastic ideas coming out of Africa. We have a lot to learn, I think, over here. We've lost.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's some beauty in being underdeveloped, because we have the opportunity to look to the West and see what mistakes you've made, and not make that. And then we also have like all this technology coming to us when we're still underdeveloped. So we were able to kind of develop on that technology and make better systems, you know. And I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. So we really need these systems. We need these networks. We have huge unbanked population. So what happens? We now have mobile money, you know, and there's some brilliant ideas from here. There's brilliant minds actually coming out of Africa. It's just that they haven't been given the opportunities to shine and the opportunities that they deserve. And I truly believe Africa is the new frontier.
I think it is. I think it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Shaila, it's been fantastic talking with you. Let's keep in touch, because if we can help develop networks in the UK, I want us to make trading links with the Sarafu Network and other networks in Africa.
Definitely interested in the Credit Commons, so for sure.
Yeah, let's keep in touch, and I'll keep you informed of any developments in the UK, and I'll be looking at your website to see what you're up to there as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shaila.
Thanks, Dave. Bye.